Have you ever looked at your bank account and felt nothing? Not joy, not relief, just nothing. You worked hard this month. You saved a little. You did everything right. But something is still missing. Something deeper. Something that numbers cannot fix. Most people think the problem is money. They think if I just had more, I would feel better. So they work harder, they chase more, they buy more. And still that feeling does not go away. Here is what nobody tells you. The problem is not your income. The problem is your relationship with money. And that relationship has been broken for a very long time. 2,000 years ago, a group of men in ancient Rome figured this out. They were not monks. They were not hiding from the world. Some of them were the richest, most powerful people alive. But they had something most people today do not have. They had peace. Real peace. The kind that does not disappear when the market goes down or when a deal falls through. They were called the Stoics, and today we are going to learn from them. This lesson is for English learners who want more than vocabulary. It is for your mind, your future, your financial freedom. Because here is the truth the Stoics discovered, and that the world's quietly wealthy still live by today. Wealth is not what you own. It is what you do not need. Read that again. Not what you own. What you do not need. By the end of this lesson, the way you see money will change. Not because you will have more of it, but because you will understand it differently. And that understanding is worth more than any salary raise. 6 lessons. 2,000 years of wisdom. One simple goal to help you build real wealth without losing the most important thing you have, your soul. Lesson 1. Control the game, not the score. Imagine 2 people. Both invest their savings in the same year. Both watch the market drop 40% in 6 months. Everything they put in is now worth almost half. The first person checks his phone every hour. He cannot sleep. He reads every headline. Bad news, worse news. He sells everything at the bottom, locks in his loss, and swears he will never invest again. The second person sees the same numbers. She feels the discomfort. She is not made of stone. But she does not move. She goes for a walk. She comes home. She makes dinner. She sleeps. 10 years later, the first person is still renting. The second person owns her home and has more invested than ever before. Same market, same drop. Completely different lives. What was the difference? The Stoics had a name for it. They called it the dichotomy of control. It is one of the most powerful ideas ever written, and it is completely free. The idea is simple. There are 2 kinds of things in life. Things you control, and things you do not control. Things you control: your effort, your habits, your decisions, your response to what happens. Things you do not control: the market, the economy, other people's choices, luck, timing. Most people spend 80% of their energy on things they cannot control. They worry about the market. They panic about inflation. They check the news and feel sick. And none of that changes anything. Not one number. Not one outcome. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than almost anyone. He was the most powerful man in the world. He commanded armies. He ran an empire. And every single morning before the rest of Rome stirred, he sat alone at a small wooden table with a candle and a journal. Outside his window, the city was waking up. Soldiers moving, markets opening. The weight of an entire civilization pressing down on his name. And he wrote. Not orders, not strategy, just thoughts about how to stay clear, how to act well with what was in his hands, how to release everything else. He could not control the wars on the border. He could not stop the plague moving through Rome. But he could control how he led, how he thought, how he responded. That discipline made him not just a great emperor. It made him wealthy in the truest sense. Stable, unshakable, clear. Now bring that to your financial life. You cannot control whether the stock market rises or falls. You cannot control whether your company gives you a raise. You cannot control inflation or interest rates or what your neighbor earns. But you can control how much you save each month. You can control whether you learn one new skill this year. You can control whether you spend from fear or from intention. The Stoic investor does not ask, will the market go up? The Stoic investor asks, am I doing the right things every day regardless of what the market does? That shift is everything. Because when you stop trying to control the score, you start playing a completely different game. A longer game. A calmer game. A game that almost always wins in the end. Wealth is not what you own. It is what you do not need. And the first thing you do not need is the illusion of control over things that were never yours to control. Lesson 2. The man who owned nothing and lacked nothing. His name was Epictetus. He was born a slave. He had no money, no property, no freedom to choose where he slept or what he ate. His master once twisted his leg so badly that it broke. Epictetus looked up at him and said calmly, "You are going to break it." And when it broke, he said, "Did I not tell you?" No anger, no tears, just clarity. He was eventually freed. He started teaching philosophy in a small room with almost nothing inside. No fancy chairs, no expensive tools. Students came from across the Roman world to sit on the floor and listen to a man who owned almost nothing. And yet every person who left that room felt richer. How is that possible? Epictetus taught one idea above all others. You are not poor because you have little. You are poor because you want more than you have. And you are rich, truly rich, the moment your desires stop running ahead of your reality. Think about that for a moment. Most of us are on a treadmill. We earn more, so we want more. We get the raise, and suddenly the apartment feels too small. We buy the car, and 6 months later we are looking at a better one. The finish line moves every time we get close. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. The Stoics called it a trap. Because no amount of money can fix a mind that always wants more. You can be worth 10 million and feel broke. You can earn a modest salary and feel completely free. The number is not the point. The hunger is the point. Epictetus did not tell people to be poor. He did not say money is evil. He said something far more practical. Train your desires. Know the difference between what you truly need and what you simply want because someone else has it. Here is a question worth sitting with. Look at the last 3 things you bought that were not essential. Not food, not medicine, not a bill. The extras. Why did you buy them? Was it because they made your life genuinely better? Or was it because you saw them somewhere or someone you know had them and suddenly you felt like you needed them too? That pull is not wealth building. That pull is wealth draining. Every time. The Stoic approach to money is not about deprivation. It is about clarity. It is about knowing what you actually value and spending your money there and nowhere else. When you reduce the target, something surprising happens. The number you need to feel secure becomes smaller. The amount you need to save each month feels more reachable. The timeline to real financial freedom gets shorter. You do not build wealth by earning more. You build it by needing less. Epictetus had almost nothing, and he lacked nothing. Because the one thing that could never be taken from him was his ability to choose how he saw the world. That is the foundation of Stoic wealth. Not in the vault, in the mind. Wealth is not what you own. It is what you do not need. Lesson 3. Practice losing before you lose. Every few weeks, Seneca did something strange. He was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He had a large villa, fine food, servants, and more money than most people could imagine. And yet several times a month, he would strip all of that away on purpose. He would eat plain bread, drink only water, sleep on a thin mat on the floor, wear his oldest, roughest clothes, not for a day, sometimes for 3 or 4 days at a time. His friends thought he was eccentric. His enemies thought he was performing. But Seneca knew exactly what he was doing. He was practicing poverty, not to suffer, to prepare. He wrote about it in a letter to his friend Lucilius. He said something like, "This set aside a few days to live on the smallest amount possible with the roughest food, the simplest shelter. Ask yourself, is this the thing I feared?" Because fear of losing money is often worse than actually losing it. The dread, the anxiety, the sleepless nights imagining the worst. That fear controls people more than poverty ever could. It makes them bad investors. It makes them hold on too tight or let go too fast, always reacting from a place of panic. Seneca's practice had one purpose: to look at the worst case, face it calmly, and realize I can survive this. And if I can survive this, then I do not need to be afraid. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum. It means the premeditation of evils. Before something bad happens, you imagine it clearly. You sit with it. You ask yourself, what would I do? How would I cope? What would still be okay? It sounds uncomfortable. It is. That is exactly the point. Because when you have already faced the loss in your mind, the actual loss does not destroy you. You have already been there. You already know the way back. Think about what this means for your financial life. Most people never think about losing their job until they lose it. Never think about a market crash until it happens. Never plan for illness or unexpected cost until it arrives at the door. And when it does, they panic. They make emotional decisions. They sell at the wrong time, borrow at the wrong time, give up at the worst moment. The Stoic investor does the opposite. Once a year, sit down and ask, what if I lost 30% of my savings tomorrow? What would I do? What would I cut? What would I sell? How long could I last? Walk through it slowly. Let the discomfort come. Then let it go. Warren Buffett does not talk about Stoicism, but he has always kept a large amount of cash that earns almost nothing just sitting there. Not because he is afraid, because he has already thought through the bad scenarios and prepared for them. He does not react to crashes. He was ready before they came. That is not luck. That is practice. The mind that has already faced the storm does not flinch when the clouds arrive. It simply opens the door and says, I know you. Come in. Lesson 4. Slow is the only way that lasts. There is a story about a farmer in ancient Rome named Cato. He was not glamorous. He did not wear fine robes or attend lavish parties. He woke up before sunrise, worked the land with his own hands, ate simple meals, and went to bed early. He kept careful records of every coin that came in and every coin that went out. He never borrowed money he could not repay within a year. He never chased a deal that promised fast returns. His neighbors called him boring. His rivals called him old-fashioned. Some laughed at how cautiously he moved through the world. Cato lived to 85. He died wealthy, respected, and completely free of debt. Every single one of the neighbors who laughed at him had faced ruin at least once. Cato was not lucky. He was slow. And slow, it turns out, is a superpower. The modern world is obsessed with speed. Fast returns, quick profits, 10 ways to double your money this year. Every week there is a new opportunity that everyone is talking about, a new asset that is going to the moon, a new strategy that the experts are quietly using. And every year millions of people lose money chasing those promises. The Stoics were not against wealth. They were against urgency. They understood something that most people take decades to learn. The fastest way to lose money is to try to make it fast. Think about the two paths. Path 1. You hear about an investment that could triple your money in 6 months. You feel the excitement. You feel the fear of missing out. You put in more than you should. Maybe it works once. Then it does not. And the loss wipes out everything you gained plus a little more. Path 2. You put a small amount aside every month without fail into something simple and steady. You do not check it every day. You do not panic when it dips. You let time do the work. 10 years pass. 20 years pass. And one morning you wake up early, make coffee, sit at your kitchen table, and open the account you almost forgot to check. The number looks back at you. And it is more than you ever thought possible from something as quiet and unsexy as patience. Charlie Munger spent decades saying the same thing in different ways. The goal is not to be brilliant. The goal is to avoid being stupid. The first rule of building wealth over time is not to interrupt the process, not to panic, not to rush, not to let excitement override discipline. Compounding is the most stoic idea in modern finance. It does not reward the loudest or the fastest or the most clever. It rewards the most consistent, the most patient, the most boring. Here is the question worth asking yourself honestly. Are you building wealth, or are you performing wealth building? Are you making long, slow, unglamorous decisions that will matter in 10 years? Or are you making fast, exciting decisions that feel good today and hurt tomorrow? Cato did not look impressive. He just kept going, day after day, year after year. The same habits, the same discipline. The same refusal to be distracted by speed. And when he was old and the people who laughed at him were gone, he was still there, still calm, still whole. That is what slow looks like from the outside. From the inside, it feels like freedom. Lesson 5. Love the hard seasons. In the year 166 AD, a plague swept through the Roman Empire. It killed 5 million people, maybe more. Cities emptied, trade stopped. Soldiers came home sick and spread the disease further. The empire that had seemed unstoppable began to crack at the edges. Marcus Aurelius was emperor through all of it. He did not hide. He did not blame the gods or curse his fate. He managed the crisis, organized relief efforts, kept the army funded, and at night, alone in his tent, he wrote. Not complaints, not prayers for things to be different. He wrote about acceptance, about how a person cannot control what the world sends them, only how they meet it. About how every hard season carries something inside it if you are willing to look. He wrote one line that has survived 2,000 years. He said something like this: "The obstacle in the path becomes the path, not around it, not despite it, through it. The hard thing is the lesson. The loss is the teacher. The season you most want to escape is the one building you most deeply." The Stoics called this amor fati. It is a Latin phrase that means love of fate. Not just accepting what happens, loving it, choosing it, saying, "This is exactly what I needed, even if I did not know I needed it." Now bring that into your financial life. You lose your job. You made a bad investment and it cost you everything you saved in 2 years. A business you believed in fails. The market drops and your portfolio looks unrecognizable. Most people in those moments ask, "Why is this happening to me?" The Stoic asks a different question. What is this making me? Because every financial loss, if you sit with it honestly, teaches you something that no book can. A job loss teaches you which skills were real and which were borrowed from a comfortable environment. A failed investment teaches you about your own risk tolerance, your decision-making under pressure, your relationship with fear. A market crash teaches you whether your strategy was built on discipline or on hope. Ray Dalio built one of the most successful investment firms in history. He talks about pain and reflection as the engine of growth. He says that the most valuable lessons he ever learned came not from his wins, but from the moments when everything fell apart and he had to rebuild from scratch. That is amor fati in a suit and tie. The hard seasons are not interruptions to your financial journey. They are the journey. They are where the real work happens, where character is built, where strategy gets tested and refined into something that can actually last. So the next time a hard season arrives, and it will do, not ask the universe to take it back. Ask yourself what it is trying to give you. Wealth is not what you own. It is what you do not need. And one of the things you do not need is for life to always be easy. The difficulty is the gift. Sometimes it just arrives in ugly wrapping. Lesson 6. Spend on freedom, not on applause. There is a man in Omaha, Nebraska, who is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. He still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,000. It has 5 bedrooms, no gate, no guard. He drives himself to work in an ordinary car. He eats breakfast at McDonald's most mornings, usually something that costs under $4. He has given away the vast majority of his fortune and plans to give away almost all of it before he dies. People find this confusing. If you have that much money, why not live differently? But Warren Buffett does not find it confusing at all. He has said in many different ways that the things most people buy to signal their success have never interested him. The yacht, the mansion, the watch that costs more than a car. These things do not add time to your day. They do not deepen your relationships. They do not make the work more meaningful. What they do is require you to keep earning to maintain them. They trap you. And for a man who has spent his entire life thinking about freedom, that is the one thing he will not buy. The Stoics understood this 2,000 years before Buffett was born. Seneca wrote that the person who adapts themselves to poverty is rich. Not because poverty is noble, but because independence is. The moment you need very little to feel okay, nobody can hold anything over you. Not an employer, not a market, not a bad year. Think about the people you know who look wealthy. The expensive car in the driveway, the designer clothes, the holidays posted on social media. Now think about how many of them are one bad month away from serious financial trouble. How many of them are working jobs they hate to pay for things they bought to impress people they do not even like? That is not wealth. That is a very expensive performance. Real wealth is quieter than that. Real wealth is the person who could lose their job tomorrow and be fine for 2 years because they lived below their means. Real wealth is the person who says no to the dinner they cannot afford without feeling ashamed. Real wealth is the person who buys back their Saturday morning instead of buying a new watch. The Stoic question is not, can I afford this? The Stoic question is, does this buy me more freedom or less? A course that teaches you a new skill, freedom. An hour with someone who challenges your thinking freedom. Savings that mean you can walk away from a situation that does not serve you, freedom. A car that costs 3 times more than you need because it impresses people at work, not freedom. a wardrobe full of clothes worn twice to feel relevant, not freedom. Spend toward freedom. Let everything else go. Think about a person at 60 looking back, not at what they earned, at what they spent it on. The years at a job that drained them maintained because of a lifestyle they could not afford to lose. The weekends not rested because the mortgage on the house they bought to impress people required one more shift. The relationships not nurtured because there was always another goal, another level, another thing to acquire before they could finally slow down. They never slowed down. Because the most expensive thing in the world is not a luxury item. It is the years you spend working for things that never actually made you happy. Wealth is not what you own. It is what you do not need. And the day you stop needing applause, you will finally be able to afford the only thing that was ever worth buying: your time. The Stoics did not hate money. Marcus Aurelius had more of it than almost anyone alive. Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. They did not run from wealth. They simply refused to let it run them. That is the difference. That is the whole lesson. Because you can build real wealth. You can save, invest, grow, and one day look at your life and feel genuinely secure. But if you do it without the right foundation, without the right relationship with money, you will arrive at that number and still feel empty. Still feel like it is not enough. Still feel like one bad year could take everything, including your peace of mind. The Stoics built a different kind of foundation, not just a financial one, a philosophical one. And it held. 2,000 years later, the principles are the same. The market changes, the currencies change, the investment vehicles change, but human nature does not change. And the trap of chasing more, of fearing loss, of spending for applause rather than freedom, that trap has been exactly the same since the days of ancient Rome. You now have 6 lessons from the people who figured it out first. 1. Control your actions, never the outcome. Put your energy where it belongs, in your habits, your decisions, your daily effort, and release the rest. 2. Want less, and you will always have enough. Train your desires, shrink the target, and watch how quickly wealth becomes possible. 3. Practice losing before you lose. Face the worst case in your mind so it cannot destroy you in real life. Preparation is the antidote to panic. 4. Slow is the only way that lasts. Let compounding do its quiet work. Stop interrupting it with urgency and fear. 5. Love the hard seasons. They are not obstacles to your financial journey. They are the journey. 6. Spend on freedom, not on applause. Every dollar you spend on what others think costs you something no dollar can buy back. Which of these 6 lessons do you need most right now? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. If this lesson moved something in you, share it with someone who needs it today. Not tomorrow, today. Keep listening, keep growing, and keep building a life that is truly yours. See you in the next lesson.